The voice came through the limousine window, broken, worn down by years and cigarettes and shouting on corners where nobody listens, but so real that Dean's hand froze on the door handle, and he didn't even hear his driver say, "Hotel's 2 blocks up, Mr. Martin. Wait," because what Dean did in the next 60 seconds would become the most whispered story in every Vegas showroom for years, and almost nobody understood what it cost him. Las Vegas, November 1966. Dean had just finished a show at the Sands. 2,000 people, 3 hours of applause, standing ovations that went on so long the orchestra got tired. At 49, he was at the peak, the smoothest crooner in America, the coolest man in the Rat Pack, Frank's right hand, every woman's fantasy, every man's drinking buddy. But that night something wasn't right. Dean felt empty, tired in a way sleep couldn't fix. Shows, planes, hotels, casino smoke, the same jokes every night, the same songs. Sometimes, looking out at thousands of fans, he'd wonder, is this it? Is this all there is? The limousine was taking him back to the hotel, but the driver took a different route. Accident on the Strip, he explained. Taking the back way. Dean nodded without paying attention. He stared out the window at empty streets, dark buildings, the Las Vegas tourists never see, and then he heard it. A voice, distant at first, but as the car moved forward, it got clearer. Someone was singing his song, floating through the night at 1 in the morning. "Stop," Dean said. "Stop the car." The Mercedes came to a halt. Dean lowered the window a few inches and saw him. A man sitting on the ground, back against a brick wall, clothes torn and stained, beard dirty and overgrown. Next to him, a cardboard box with a few coins. In his hands, an old guitar. 2 strings were missing, but he was singing. And his voice, God, his voice, it wasn't perfect. It was damaged. Years of alcohol and cigarettes, and screaming on corners where nobody cares. But there was something there. A truth. The truth of someone who sings because it's the only thing he knows how to do, because singing is the only thing keeping him alive. The man had his eyes closed. He didn't know anyone was listening. He didn't know that the man who made that song famous was sitting 20 feet away, paralyzed, unable to look away. Dean felt something in his chest, a knot, something he hadn't felt in years. He closed his eyes, and suddenly, he wasn't in Las Vegas. He was in Cleveland, 1943, 17 years old. Amateur boxing ring. A punch he didn't see coming. Nose shattered. Doctors saying he'd never fight again. And his mother, a guitar. 4 words. So you have something to do. Dean opened his eyes. The man kept singing, lost in the music, in his world of 4 strings and an empty box. Notice something here. Because this moment, this exact moment when Dean's past and this stranger's present collided, this is where everything that follows started to make sense. "Martin," the driver said. "Should we go?" Dean didn't answer. He stared at the man, stared at his hands on the strings, stared at a man who had nothing, absolutely nothing, except a broken guitar and a borrowed song. And something moved inside Dean. He remembered who he was before the fame, the kid who wanted to be a boxer, the teenager with the broken nose who learned guitar because he didn't have anything else, the nights playing in empty bars for coins, the hunger, the fear. That man on the street wasn't a stranger. That man was him, a version that didn't get lucky, a version that never got the chance. The man finished the song. The last chord faded into the cold air. Silence. He looked at his box, almost empty. He sighed. Dean made a decision. "Wait here," he told the driver. "Sir, this area isn't safe. Wait here." He opened the door. The cold air hit him. It smelled like garbage, like dampness. His Italian shoes touched the dirty asphalt, and he started walking toward the man. 20 feet. 10. 5. The man hadn't seen him. He was tuning the guitar, muttering something. Dean stopped in front of him. His shadow fell across the man. The man looked up. annoyed, probably expecting a cop or someone who was going to insult him. But when his eyes found Dean's face, he froze, confusion, disbelief, a blink. "No," he whispered. "Can't be." Dean said nothing. He just looked at the man. The man dropped the guitar. His hands were shaking. "You? You're—" "Yeah," Dean said. "I'm me." The man tried to stand up. His legs failed. He fell back down. Dean extended his hand to help, but the man pulled back like a frightened animal. "I'm sorry," he stammered. "Sorry for singing your song. I didn't mean to." "Why are you apologizing?" "Because it's yours, not mine. I don't have the right. You sang it better than I do." Silence. The man looked at Dean like he'd spoken a foreign language. "What?" "It's been years since I heard someone sing like that. With that truth." The man's eyes filled with tears. "I only sing to survive. Your songs keep me alive. When I sing, I forget about the hunger, the cold, that I'm nobody." Dean sat down on the ground right there, on the dirty sidewalk next to the man, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "What's your name?" "Tommy." "How long have you been on the street, Tommy?" 8 years, maybe 9, and before that." Tommy went silent for a long moment. His eyes looked at something that wasn't there, something only he could see. "Before that I had a life," he said finally. "A wife, Linda, and a son, Michael." His voice broke. Linda sang. "That's how we met, in a lounge in Reno. I was playing piano. She walked in. Our eyes met, and I knew. In that moment, I knew I was going to spend the rest of my life with her." Dean listened without moving. "We got married in '52. No money, but happy. A year later, Michael was born. He had his mother's eyes and my voice. By the time he was 4, he was already singing. He knew all your songs, Mr. Martin. All of them." Tommy swallowed hard. July 15th, 1958. Linda took Michael to the grocery store. I stayed home working on a song. It was our anniversary. I wanted to surprise her. He paused. "They never made it. A drunk driver, red light. They found them 3 blocks from home." Dean felt something break inside his chest. "After that, I destroyed myself. Started drinking. Lost my job at the lounge. Lost everything. One day, I woke up on the street, and here I stayed." Tommy picked up the guitar. "The only thing I have left is this and your songs. When I sing them, I feel like Linda's still listening. I feel like Michael's still with me." Dean said nothing for a moment, just looked at Tommy, at this destroyed man who had found in his songs a reason to keep breathing. And he thought about himself. In Cleveland, the broken nose, the shattered dreams, his mother who left a guitar and disappeared to work double shifts. The difference between him and Tommy wasn't talent. It wasn't effort. It was a moment, an opportunity. A guitar in the darkness. Dean had received that opportunity. Tommy hadn't. Until now. Dean stood up. He looked at Tommy directly. "Tomorrow night, I have a show. The Sands, 2,000 people." Tommy nodded. "I know. They said it on the radio. I want you to come. I don't have money for. You don't understand. I don't want you to come watch. I want you to sing with me. On stage. In front of 2,000 people." Tommy sat frozen, like the words made no sense. "I can't. Look at me. You're a man who sings just like me." Dean took out a card, wrote an address. "Tomorrow at noon. This hotel. Ask for me. They'll let you through." He held out the card. Tommy looked at it. His hands trembled. "Why are you doing this?" Dean smiled, a sad smile. "Because someone did it for me once. My mother, she left me a guitar when I had nothing else. Saved my life." He paused. "Maybe it's my turn to pass the guitar forward." Tommy took the card, clutched it like it was the most valuable thing in the world, because it was. Dean walked toward the car. Before getting in, he turned around. "Tomorrow, Tommy. Don't let me down." And the Mercedes disappeared into the night. Tommy stayed alone with a broken guitar, a crumpled card, and something he hadn't felt in 8 years: hope. Tommy didn't sleep that night. He stayed on the corner looking at the card, wondering if it had all been a dream. But when dawn came, the card was still there. Dean's handwriting, the hotel address, real. He walked for 2 hours. He didn't have money for the bus. He crossed Las Vegas on foot, guitar on his back, until he reached the address on the card. The Desert Inn, the most luxurious hotel in the city. White marble, golden doors, uniformed doormen. Tommy stood on the sidewalk across the street, looking at himself. Torn clothes, street smell, weeks of beard. I can't go in there, he thought. They'll kick me out. But he'd promised. He crossed the street. Each step was a battle. The doormen saw him coming. Their faces changed. One stepped forward. Sir, you can't be here. Move along. I'm here to see Mr. Martin. I have a card. Sure, and I'm having dinner with the Queen of England. Keep moving. Tommy felt the world collapsing. He'd been an idiot. How had he believed that? Let him through. A voice from the hotel entrance. A man in a suit. Mr. Martin is expecting him. The doormen looked at each other, confused, but stepped aside. Tommy walked in. What followed was like a dream. They bathed him. Hot water for the first time in years. They shaved him, cut his hair, gave him new clothes, a suit that probably cost more than he'd earned in his entire life. Tommy looked at himself in the mirror and didn't recognize the man looking back. It wasn't the beggar from the corner. It was someone else. Someone who had existed a long time ago. Someone Linda had loved. That night, they took him to the Sands. 2,000 people. The showroom packed. Lights blazing. Tommy watched everything from backstage, shaking. The noise of the crowd was deafening. He wanted to run. He took a step back, two, and bumped into someone. Dean. Nervous. Tommy couldn't speak. He just nodded. Me too, Dean said. Every night, every show. I've been doing this for 25 years, and my hands still shake before I go out. Tommy looked at him. Really, really. The day I stopped being scared, I stopped singing. Fear means you care. Dean put a hand on Tommy's shoulder. Don't think about the 2,000 people. Think about Linda, about Michael. Sing for them. Nobody else matters. And he walked out onto the stage. Tommy watched him sing, song after song. The audience went wild. And then, halfway through the show, Dean stopped the music. Silence. Tonight, he said into the microphone, I want to introduce you to someone. 2,000 people holding their breath. Last night, my car stopped on a dark street, and I heard a voice singing one of my songs, but singing it in a way I'd forgotten. Pause. The man singing had nothing. No home, no money, no family, just a broken guitar. But in his voice, there was something I lost a long time ago. Truth. Dean looked toward the side of the stage. Tonight that man is going to sing with me. Tommy felt someone push him gently. It's your turn. He walked toward the stage, legs shaking, lights blinding him. 2,000 faces staring. But in his hands he had the guitar, the same broken guitar from the corner. Dean had insisted on that. He reached center stage. Dean nodded. The music started. Tommy played the first chord. His fingers trembled. His voice came out weak, almost inaudible, but he closed his eyes and saw Linda, saw Michael, saw their kitchen, the three of them singing together, and his voice transformed. It filled the showroom. It mixed with Dean's. Two voices that shouldn't work together, but worked perfectly. 2,000 people in absolute silence. The song ended. 1 second of silence, and then 2,000 people stood up. The applause was deafening. Dean walked over to Tommy, hugged him. This man, he said into the microphone, reminded me why I sing, reminded me where I come from, and taught me more about music in 10 minutes than everything I learned in 25 years. Tommy cried without hiding it. For the first time in 8 years, he wasn't crying from sadness. That night ended. The lights went out, the sands emptied, and Tommy disappeared. Nobody knows exactly what happened after that. The story fragments here becomes rumors, versions that change depending on who's telling them. Some say Dean offered him a job, took him on tour, that Tommy sang on other stages for a few years. Others say he turned it all down, that he thanked Dean, but said, "I don't belong in that world," that he went back to the streets, but different, no longer a beggar, a man who had touched the sky once. Some swear they saw him years later in a bar in downtown Vegas, singing for people with a new guitar, a gift from Dean, they say, but with the same broken voice as always. And some say he died shortly after, that his body worn down by years on the street couldn't take much more, but that he died at peace, knowing that at least once he'd been exactly who he always wanted to be. The truth is, nobody knows for sure. Dean never spoke publicly about that night, never confirmed the story, never denied it. But years later, in an interview, a reporter asked him about the most important moment of his career. Dean thought for a moment. It wasn't a showroom, it wasn't a gold record, it wasn't singing for presidents. Then what? A night in Las Vegas, a dark corner, a man who had nothing singing one of my songs. Who was that man? Dean looked out the window. His eyes shined. Someone who taught me more in 10 minutes than everything I learned in 25 years. He didn't say more. Who was Tommy? Did that night at the Sands really happen? Did it happen the way they tell it? Or is it a legend that grew over time? Maybe we'll never know. But there's one thing we do know. That night, on a corner in Las Vegas, two men met. One had everything: fame, money, the world at his feet. The other had nothing, just a broken guitar and a borrowed song. And for a few minutes they were exactly the same, because music doesn't ask who you are, doesn't ask where you come from, doesn't ask how much money you have. Music only asks one thing: do you have something to say? Tommy had something to say. And that night, 2,000 people listened. They say, if you walk down certain streets of Las Vegas at midnight, sometimes you can hear something, a distant voice singing. Maybe it's the wind, maybe it's a memory, or maybe it's Tommy, singing to Linda and Michael from somewhere where songs never end. If you enjoyed spending this time here, I'd be grateful if you'd consider subscribing. A simple like also helps more than you'd think. Do you know someone who changed your life without knowing it? Someone who appeared at just the right moment? Tell me in the comments. And if you want to hear what really happened the night Dean found that guitar player again, 5 years later, let me know below.